I'm Ganesh, and I have like 8 years of experience in IT, mainly into BI and data analytics. I have worked in different technologies like Power BI, Tableau, other BI tools like Pentaho, and some part of ETL. Also, I have worked. My expectations is into these like GCP that exposing exposure on new technologies like end-to-end technical process to be in a technical journey, and it's a kind of self upgradation to the technology as well.
Garo?
Gaurav this side. So similar for me, currently I have close to 10 years of experience, and my current technologies are SAS, W, Python, and Power BI. So these technology currently I'm working on. So just want to explore more about the Google Cloud. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Swagat, you can go ahead. Let them join in between.
Okay. Okay, yeah, fine. Uh, so thanks, guys. Let me share my screen. Okay. I hope all of you are able to see my screen. So in this course, we are going to cover the Google Cloud Data Engineering Services. So just like any other cloud, whether it's Azure or AWS, in case of the Google Cloud, also there are many services. And out of all those services, not all services are being used by the data engineer who are working in a Google Cloud project. So there are certain services which are there in the Google Cloud, and those are the services which are used in a data engineering project. If in that project they are using data Google Cloud service to build the data pipeline. So there are certain services of the Google Cloud which they are using, and we are going to discuss all those services in detail along with use cases and the project as well. So if you'll see on the course, this is about me. Currently, I'm having more than 9 years of experience and around 4 to 5 years of experience into Google Cloud. So I have multiple certification in Google Cloud. But this course is basically designed for the data engineer. So in this course, we are going to cover all the concept of the data engineering. We'll start from the very basic concept and we'll cover all the data engineering concept along with the use cases using the Google Cloud services. So after this course, you'll be very in a comfortable position to go ahead and clear your certification, the data engineering certification. In case of the Google Cloud, there are many certifications are there. So if you just search for Google Cloud certification, so there are many certifications which are there in case of the Google Cloud, and you can go for this certification as well. Whenever, like once the course is completed, you can go for the certification. So basically, certification means I'm talking about the Google Cloud Data Engineering certification. Anyone is talking? Guys, if you have any questions, I'll give you time. Like after some time, you can just unmute yourself and ask. But for now, please be on mute. And then if you have any questions, anything you can ask. So in case of the Google Cloud, like there are many certifications are there, but we are mainly targeting the data engineering certifications, which is a professional level certification. And in this course is just not for the certification. We are covering a lots of things which are also not part of the certification. We are also covering like whatever is there in the certification that we are obviously covering. Apart from that, also we are covering a lot so that whenever someone will go ahead and they will join a Google Cloud project, so they will be in a comfortable position to work with all those Google Cloud services. So during this course, the you need to have a Google Cloud account And I will tell you like how to create a Google Cloud account. So you need to have a Google Cloud free trial account. You don't need to pay anything. You just need to have a new Gmail ID. You need to have a Gmail ID which you need to create. It has to be a new Gmail ID. New means you should not have used this Gmail ID on your previous account. On your like previously, if you have not used this Gmail ID by to create a Google Cloud account, and you need to have a credit card, or even also debit card also works, but credit card is better. So these are the two things which you need to create a Google Cloud GCP free trial account. And on this free trial account, you will get $300 of the credit, and this $300 of the credit will be valid for 90 days, which is more than enough to complete all the hands-on, to complete all the use cases on the project, which we are going to do in this course. Okay. So once you join the course, I'll also tell you like how to create the GCP free trial account, and you need to have that free trial account, otherwise you'll not be able to practice. So without the account, because whatever we are going to do, like we'll be using the some of the Google Cloud services. So you need to have the Google Cloud account. After the completion of the course, as I told, you can go for the Google Cloud Data Engineering Certification exam, and the exam cost comes around $200. But if you are getting some kind of a voucher from your company, then that is also better. Like most of the company, they have some partner with the Google Cloud. You can just search for in your company. In the company, there will be either DNA unit or some Google Cloud unit who will be providing you this kind of voucher. So you just need to search for that and you'll get the voucher. And I'll definitely suggest you to go for the certification, because nowadays many interviewer, like if you are going for a Google Cloud data engineering interview, they might ask you like if you have done the certification or not. So it's you can go for the certification, and in the certification you'll basically get all the MCQ based questions. Okay, and you'll get around 45 to 50 questions, and the duration of the exam will be 2 hours, and all the MCQ based questions. So either you need to select one answer, or in some of the questions you need to select multiple answers. So these are the types of questions which you'll get in the exam, and I will also give you some sample set as well, sample questions, around 2 to 3 sets of the sample questions I'll give. But those are not kind of DOMs, but you can use those questions to prepare for the certification exam. Similar levels of questions you will get in the certification exam. So definitely you can use that to prepare for your certification exam. And this was about the creating the Google Cloud account, and the certification, can go for the certification. So guys, please be on mute and don't write anything on the screen. Please be on mute. So as I told, once I'll cover, like I'll give you the time, ample time, like you can go ahead and ask your whatever doubts you have. So in the course, what we are going to do, I think Ganesh has already shared the syllabus with you, but let me tell you what we are going to do. So in this course, we'll start with the data engineering basics. And in the data engineering basics, so basically we are going to cover the ELT, ETL concept, and we are going to cover the SCD type, different types of SCD, whatever you have. We are going to cover the data warehousing concept. We are going to cover the data lake concept. And we are going to cover the data modeling part. Gaurav, please, can you just be on mute and don't write anything on the screen?
Yeah, sure.
So this was about, this is the first initial part which we are going to cover. and much more, like which we are going to cover in the data engineering basics, so that even somebody who is completely new, they will be also able to understand all the data engineering concept, because this course is mainly for the data engineer, not for DevOps or not for data scientist. So they need to have the data engineering concept. They should have the understanding of the data engineering concept. So we are going to cover the data engineering fundamental part in the initial few classes. And after that, we are going to start with the GCP services. So in the GCP services, we'll start with the GCP basic services. So basic services, which I meant is like it's used by all the like in all the different types of professional people, whether it's they are coming from DevOps or they are coming from data scientists. So these are the services which are being used by almost all the people who are using the GCP services. So in these services, we are going to cover the IAM part, which is the identity and the access management. In the identity access management, we are going to cover like how you can how you can grant access to someone, how you can use the service account and all, how you can add some users and you can grant certain access to those users. So those things we are going to cover in the IAM part. After that, we have the compute engine, Google Cloud Compute Engine. And then we have the Google Cloud Kubernetes engine. I'm just writing the short form of it, GKE, which is the Google Cloud Kubernetes engine. And then we have the Google Cloud App Engine. We have the Cloud Run and Cloud Function. So these are the services which we are going to cover in the basic services. And after covering the basic services, the next part is we are going to cover the storage and the database services. So in this storage and the database services, we are going to cover the GCS, Google Cloud Storage. We are going to cover, so GCS is similar to what we have S3 in case of AWS, or we have Azure Blob Storage in case of the Azure platform. Okay, then we are going to cover the database services. So there are different types of SQL as well as no SQL database services which are there in case of the Google Cloud, and we are going to cover those. So in particularly for SQL, we have Cloud SQL, we have Spanner. So these services we are going to cover. Similarly, in case of the no SQL services, we have Bigtable, we have the Firestore, Data Store. So these are the no SQL services, SQL and no SQL services, which here we are going to cover in the storage and the database services part. After covering the storage databases, the next service is the data warehouse services. In the data warehouse services, we are going to cover BigQuery. And along with BigQuery, we are also going to cover dbt, Dataform. So these are the services also we are going to cover. These are the services which we are basically the third-party tool which we are going to see like how we can integrate all those services along with the data warehouse. After covering the storage and the database services, we are going to start with the data processing services. In the data processing services, we are going to cover data proc, data fusion. So basically, these are the GCP services names which I am telling you. Data flow, data stream, and also there is pops up And after this, we are going to cover the data pipeline orchestration services. Data pipeline orchestration services, which is Cloud Composer, which is nothing but the Airflow, managed Airflow service. In case of the GCP, it is available as the Cloud Composer. The service name is Cloud Composer. After covering this, we are going to cover the data catalog or data management services. Like we have the data catalog, or right now it is called as Dataplex. And then we are going to cover the DLP API. And after this, we are going to cover some of the ML services. The basic ML, ML stands for machine learning services. So in the ML part, we are going to cover the BigQuery ML services. We are going to cover the Vertex AI. And then there are different ML APIs are there. So those things we are going to cover. And also finally, we are going to have a cover the Looker Studio, which is a BI tool available in Google Cloud. Again, that is also on a fundamental level. We'll just create a sample dashboard, how to integrate Looker with the data warehouse platform, which is BigQuery, and how to create a simple dashboard in the Looker Studio. So these are those services which we are going to cover. So basically, if you'll see where you can use, now the question will come to your mind, like we have discussed about so many services, but where we are actually using this in the data pipeline. So if you'll see in the data pipeline, usually in the data pipeline, there will be data sources. There will be multiple data sources. So data can come from some, let's say from CSV files, or it can come from some SQL databases like Oracle databases, or from any IoT sensors like any vehicle sensor or any other sensor. So data can come from any of these sources, right? And once the data will come to your data pipeline, so your job is to, as a data engineer, you need to collect all this data. You need to store all this data in your data pipeline. And we are calling it as the data lake. So data lake we are using to store all the data. So basically we are storing all the raw data. We are not using the data lake layer or whatever the services you are using in data lake, that is not being used to do any kind of data processing. So this is just for the collection of the data in the raw format. That is known as the data lake layer. Once the data is collected, after that, what we are doing, like we are doing the data processing. We are doing the data processing. So we are basically extracting all this raw data, and then we are applying the data processing, and then we are storing the data in the data warehouse. So this data warehouse, you can call it, let's say, this is the staging layer of my data warehouse. After storing the data in the data warehouse, again, I am doing some more data processing. And again, I'm storing the data in another layer of the data warehouse, which is again BigQuery. Wherever I'm writing BigQ, it's referring for the BigQuery. And here again, I'm writing the data and I'm storing the data in the standard layer. So this is my complete pipeline, end-to-end pipeline. So where I'm having the raw layer, so you can call it raw layer. And then I am having the next layer is the staging layer, where I'm storing the staging data. And then after the staging layer, I have my standard layer. So for each of the layer, you'll be having a data model. So you need to have a data model since you are coming from the Power BI analyst background, you might be already knowing about the data model which we create using the visualization tool like Power BI or Tableau. In case of the data model, we have the ERT diagram, and then we'll be having multiple tables, how these tables will be connected with each other. So I hope you already have those idea, like it will be having one-to-many relationship or many-to-one relationship. So those kind of data model will be having for each of the layer. Okay. And then similarly, there will be a data model for the standard layer as well. So this is my data pipeline. Okay. And once this data pipeline is completed, once my data pipeline is completed, my next job is, let's say, what usually happens, like we have developed this data pipeline and we have tested it in the dev environment. Now in the next environment, whether it is pre-prod or in case of the prod environment, what we need to do is we cannot manually trigger it. We need to have scheduling, right? We need to run the data pipeline on a schedule basis. So there we need the orchestration tool, and where the Airflow or Cloud Composer, both are same thing. Airflow or Cloud Composer will come into picture. So for the orchestration of this pipeline, let's say I want to run this pipeline every day at 9 a.m. or every week, or on a particular week on Wednesday, I want to run at 8 p.m. So I can schedule it based on the Airflow scheduling, and then I can run this pipeline, complete end-to-end pipeline based on this using the Airflow. So there this Airflow will come into picture. And on the raw layer, okay, so on the raw layer, you can create, we have discussed about the services, right? Out of those services, let's say I can use the GCS, Google Cloud Storage Services, on the raw layer to store the raw data, okay, which are unformatted data. To store all the raw data, I can use the Google Cloud Services, which is the cheapest storage solution available in the Google Cloud. It's a blob storage solution. Basically, we can use the Google Cloud Storage to store any unstructured data, any raw data we can store in the Google Cloud Storage. Next is the data processing services, right? So in the data processing services, we discussed about so many options, like we have data prog, we have data flow, we have discussed about the data stream, right? All of these services we have discussed. It's not like you are going to use all of these services in the project. In the project, you will be using, out of all these services, you will be using one of the services. Let's take that services as data flow. Okay, so we are using data flow for the processing of the data. And then we have the BigQuery for the data warehouse. Okay, and then we have again the data processing part. We have, so here also we are using data flow. As I told, in a project, you are not going to see like they're using data flow, also they're using data prog, also they're using data fusion. That will not be the case. So you'll be finding that in the project, they will be using either one of those services. Okay, so because all of these services are like very costly services. So, and also you don't need it. If you are using any one of the services to process your data, that's enough. So let's say here also we are using data flow. And then on the BigQuery, the standard layer, you have another another layer, which is the standard layer. So once the data is loaded to the standard layer, so in the team, like whatever the end users are, right? Let's say once the data is loaded in the standard layer, then we have the BI developers who are going to use the data, because this is the transform data. This is the refined data. So all those refined data, like the BI developer, they are going to use those data, or there is data scientist team who will be consuming the data from this standard layer, or there will be multiple teams or reporting layer team who are going to use this data to create some dashboards or reports. Okay, so this will be the complete end-to-end flow in a data engineering project. if you have any questions on this, you can unmute and ask.
Yeah, I have one question here. So, like in industry, like we are using data proc or data flow. Like which tool is more favorite, or like more generally we are using which tool most?
So each tool has different kinds of requirement. This tool has different kinds of significance. Data proc or data flow, both are designed to process the big data. Both are designed to process huge amount of the data. So you don't need both. You can select any one of the tool. Basically, the main difference you will see in case of the data flow and the data proc. So data proc and data flow, if you see, data flow is a completely serverless service. This is not service, this is a managed service. This is not serverless, this is managed service. So difference is, if you are creating a data proc cluster, you need a team, admin team or infrastructure team, who has to manage the server. Okay, in the project, like there will be a different team. It's not you. You might be the part of data engineering development team, but there will be a different team who will be managing the cluster, and we generally call that team as admin team or infra team, who will be managing the data proc cluster. But here you don't need any separate team. This is a completely serverless service. You don't need to create any cluster. You can just start working on data flow instance. You can create and you can start using it. Second thing is, this data flow is basically designed based on the Apache Beam model. But here this is used. You can use PySpark, you can use Scala Spark on the data proc. And but here you need to know the Apache Beam, how to write the code using Apache Beam. So that needs to be known to your team. Your team should be familiar with the Apache Beam. Then only you can use the data flow. And also, let's say if you have a requirement where you are most of the team, like let's say there was a big data project which was already running in the existing infrastructure, like it was running on the on premises. They were using the some of the distribution, like whether it's Cloudera or Hortonworks. Some of the distributions they were already using, and they already had a big data cluster. They had already created the PySpark jobs and Hive jobs. Now they don't want to create any new PySpark job. So right now they want to migrate to GCP, but they don't want to create any more jobs. They don't want to redesign their PySpark job. They don't want to rewrite all those jobs. They want to run the existing jobs on a different cluster in cloud. So they have this option, data proc, where they can do the lift and shift. They can create a similar type of cluster in the data proc, and they can start running all those PySpark jobs or Hive jobs. But here that is not the scenario. Okay, so here you cannot do the lift and shift. If you want to migrate to data flow, again, like whatever transformation you are doing in those jobs, again, you will have to write those using the Apache Beam. Okay, so it is easier for doing the lift and shift in case of the data proc. So these are the some of the features, like you need to points which you need to consider when you are selecting whether you should go for data proc or data flow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
And how difficult it to learn, like to practice, especially in the data proc and data flow, or it's like easy user friendly tool? Like, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's not difficult. So one of the prerequisite which we have on this course is like you need to be familiar with Python, or you can start learning now if you don't know about Python, PySpark, and SQL, because these are the scripting language which we are going to use while doing any hands-on or project. So you need to have a familiarity. You need to know about the PySpark, Python, and SQL, and also you need to have in-depth knowledge. So it's not like on superficial level. You need to have the in-depth knowledge on this, because whenever you will go for the interview, like let's say right now you are working as an analyst, you want to jump to the GCP data engineering domain. So in the interview, you will be asked questions on this, like you'll be asked coding questions on this topic, like so related to the Python, PySpark, or SQL, or maybe some of the concept of the PySpark or SQL. Okay, so you need to have in-depth knowledge. So even also we are doing a crash course over the weekend, and that is included in this course. That is a part of this course. So we are doing the class course on the weekend, not on your regular timing. We are doing the class course to cover this topic, but those are the class course. Those are not like the complete end-to-end course. I'll be covering all this topic like Python, SQL, or PySpark. Even some batches, people are already familiar with SQL, so I just skip SQL and move to Python on PySpark. So that is how we do the class course, but it will be a class course which will be spanning over 3-4 weekends or more than that, but it will be like a class course. So but I want you to start learning. If you are not, if you know, it's fine, better, you don't need to know, you don't need to again learn it. But if you don't know, then please start learning from now itself. If you have made up your mind to jump to this data engineering domain, this is must, like you need to have the coding knowledge on Python, PySpark, and SQL. So without that, it's very difficult, even after because you have to answer the coding questions, or even if you are going for some senior level, still they will ask you some conceptual questions related to the Spark and all. We are going to cover. I will also help you during the course. If you have any questions, let's say you are doing practice on your own, you are stuck somewhere, I'll be help you out. So don't worry about that, but you have to put some effort to learn this coding script. And the class timings, like we'll be having the weekdays classes. The regular classes will be on weekdays, 5 days a week. And so the classes mostly will conduct during the morning time, from 7:30 to 8:30, or you can check the timings with Ganesh. He will inform you about the timing, but the classes will be on weekdays, the GCP classes. And the class course which I told, that will be on the weekend, based on my availability. So and the to complete the course, it will take around 45 to 50 hours to complete the course, along with project, along with hands-on. It will take around this much of time. So yeah. Anything, any other questions you have, can ask?
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Swagat, one more question. In-depth knowledge in SQL, Python, and PyScript. How much in-depth? Whether do we use like a regular uh, kind of course, or each time we need to elaborate like new things only in that one? Like I was confused in that one, like the in-depth knowledge.
No, you should be like in a
For sometimes I'll tell in some scenarios what happened user codes are like used again and again. For example, I need to fetch the data from some particular thing from some particular source, and I want to use in my DB. There will be some set of codes, like predefined codes. Only we need to change the source and destinations. So that kind of scenario, I'm asking, like each time we can use reuse the code, or in each scenario we need to write a different codes. Why? Because I never use SQL. In a minimal level I use SQL. But when it comes to in-depth, means how frequent we need to use new queries in SQL.
Yeah, so in-depth means you need to have like knowledge, you need to have advanced level of knowledge on all of these
Okay.
technical languages.
That is for modeling, or
No.
is in
Modeling, you don't need all these things. So that
okay.
is basically, as I told, first one is for the interview. So let's say you are
Okay.
going for data engineering interview, they will ask you questions on these topics first, and then they
Okay.
will go to the GCP services. So let's say
Okay.
you'll be talking about the pipeline, which I gave you an example. You'll be talking
Yes.
about those by that pipeline. So they will understand, they listen to what you are saying about your project, and then they will ask you, like, before going to that, and it also depends on for which position you are applying. Let's say you are applying for lead, or for even for architect position also, they might not ask you to write some code, but they will ask you some questions, conceptual questions on the Spark. And let's say if you are using Apache Beam, they will ask you some conceptual questions on the Apache Beam. So, after that, they will go to the GCP services. Let's say in your pipeline, you are using BigQuery, so they'll ask you questions related to the BigQuery, questions specific to the data flow. And this is how the interview will happen. After completion of that, so let's say you are joining a project where they're using the GCP data engineering. Like you are joining the GCP data engineering project, they're using GCP services as to build their data pipeline. Even if you are joining as a lead or developer, still you need to have, like, you may need to look at least you don't need to write any new code. Let's say junior folks are writing, but you need to have understanding, you need to look at the codes, right? Whatever other people are writing, and you need to review those code. If you don't know how you can review the code, and let's say there is a scenario where in case of the Spark, you need to do some kind of optimization. Let's say the Spark job is taking 2 hours to complete, and then your manager told that can you look at this job which this some ex junior guy has written, and can you do some optimization, why it is taking so much time? So you need to
Okay.
check that end to end, like how much data is flowing, what is the size of input data, what is the size of output data, what all transformation we are doing in case of the Spark. So for that, you need to have the knowledge of the Spark. You need to know about, let's say they are doing some kind of joins, Spark broadcast join, Spark sort merge join, but you need to know how that join works. So these are the advanced level of the Spark. So that's why, like I'm telling, like, it's if you have made up your mind to join to jump into the data engineering domain, then these skills are mandatory. If you don't have that, like in your mind to switch to data engineering domain, you just need to want to learn about the data engineering skill, then you can just learn the basic level, that will be enough. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
I'm fine with that. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so let's go to the demo which I wanted to show you. So in this demo, what we are going to do, we are going to use the DBT. Okay, so DBT is a data build tool, and you can just search for any of the. You can go to LinkedIn, or you can go to anywhere. You can search for the requirement. Like nowadays, people are looking for the skill set on the DBT as well. So DBT is a data build tool. It is not part of GCP services. It's a third-party tool. Basically, DBT is used to build the ETL pipeline. And not only can build, you can run some of the test cases using DBT. Okay. And you can test your pipeline. You can release different versions of your pipeline. There are many things you can do using DBT. We'll cover that in the class. But for the demo, just understand that DBT is a data build tool, which is mainly used to build the ETL pipeline. And DBT, you can integrate with any of the data warehouse. So in the data warehouse, we have many options. In case of the big GCP, we have BigQuery. And if you'll see other data warehouse which we have Snowflake, which is basically a SaaS service. You can also integrate DBT with Snowflake. You can integrate Redshift. You can integrate Databricks. You can integrate Azure Synapse. So there are many other data warehouse which you can also integrate with the DBT. But since we are going to focus on GCP, so we'll see how we can use the DBT along with BigQuery. So if you'll see like here in the DBT, what we have is, so this is a DBT folder which I have created, and this is the complete DBT pipeline. Okay. So there are so many folders you can see here. We have the Marcos folder, we have the models folder, profile, seeds, and target folder. So don't worry about all this folder, and I'll talk about some of the folders, but don't get confused by other name. So
So
here you can see.
I have one question here. So DBT also free for users? Like you told us, like Google Cloud is we can use for 90 days with $300. So similar way, DBT is also free?
Yeah, good question. So DBT, if you see, there are two versions of DBT. One is the DBT core, which is basically a CLI version, command line interface version. And then there is DBT cloud. So this DBT cloud comes with a plan, and this is a pay as you go subscription. So this is again not part of DBT, not part of GCP. It's available outside of the GCP. You'll have to pay extra. Okay, so DBT cloud, which is the paid version of the DBT, and then there is DBT core, which is the free version, open source version. Anybody can use it, and this is a CLI version. Okay. So DBT Cloud also you can use for free up to 30 days. For first 30 days, it gives you the free subscription which you can use. But after 30 days, it will start charging you. So you'll have to select one of the plan in order to continue using that DBT Cloud. But we are going to use the DBT core. Both are same thing. The only difference is DBT Cloud is available. It's having its own user interface. But the DBT core, as I told, you need to use the CLI mode of, you need to set up it, and you need to run all the command using CLI, basically using the command line interface. So we are going to use this DBT core version, and also I'll show you DBT cloud during the class. I'll also show you how to use the DBT cloud, but that DBT cloud is the paid version. So in case of the DBT, you'll find this folder structure, which will be similar, whatever the project, whatever the DBT project you are going to work on. The folder structure, the naming convention will be same in all of the project, because this is the standard format which we need to follow whenever we are using DBT. Whether you are using DBT with Snowflake or any other data warehouse, you need to follow this folder structure. So this folder structure basically you can create using the DBT command. Okay, so I can show you that, but we don't have the time, like how to create this folder structure. But for now, just understand that in case of the DBT, we call it models. So let's say I have my, I have a pipeline, right? I want to build a pipeline where I have, let's say, some data sources. These are the source table. And then from the source table, I want to apply some transformation, which I can specify using DBT. And then after that, I'm creating staging table, staging layer table. And then again, I'm applying some transformation using DBT. And then I'm creating my standard layer table. So here we are calling it, each of the table, we can call it table, or we can refer it as the model as well. We can call it as the model. So we have the standard layer model, we have the staging layer model, and we have the source layer model. So this model folder, if you see the whatever the transformation you are applying, so that transformation we need to specify inside this model folder. So for example, I'll start with the first one, which is the, this is the, and in DBT, we are going to use only SQL to apply this transformation. So that is one more advantage. So you don't need any other languages. So you need to have knowledge on the SQL, and you need to know the Jinja template, how to write basically the Jinja template. These are the two things which you need to know if you want to work with the DBT. Recently, DBT has released another version which support Python as well. Like whatever the script you are seeing here, right? All these transformation script you can also write using the Python as well. So that has been released in the recent version of the DBT, which supports the Python as well. Whoever is familiar with Python, if they want to write their transformation script using Python, they can write. But initially, DBT was supporting SQL, and still also it supports SQL as well. So along with SQL, right now, like you can also write the script using the Python as well. So if you see here, this is simple SQL script. What we are doing, we are extracting the data from this table. So this is the table name, okay, and it's already connected with the BigQuery, okay. So all this transformation, what we are doing, it's going to apply this transformation. So this query will be running on the BigQuery. So for the processing of this query, whenever this query will run, so this query will be run as the BigQuery jobs. It's going to use BigQuery for the processing of it. Okay. So whatever this query I have used, it's going to use on the BigQuery engine. Similarly, if you have integrated BigQuery DBT with Snowflake, it will be run on the Snowflake tables. If you have integrated with Redshift or some other data warehouse, those query will be running on that particular data warehouse. So this query, what I am doing, I'm just selecting some of the columns, okay, from this table, and then after selecting this column, so this is my raw table, this is my source table. So after selecting this column, what I'm doing, like if you go to this selective fast chain, so these are all table names. College scorecard is one of the table name or model name. Selective fast chain is one of the table name, and this is also another table name. So this is my fast model, this is my source model. So after selecting this, after writing this query, so whatever query you have written, whatever the columns you have selected here, so those columns will be selected as part of this model called a scorecard model. That is my model name. I can use this source model on my next layer model, which is this model, selective fast chain model. So here you can see I am selecting all these columns from the college scorecard model. Okay. And I'm not just selecting, I'm also applying some transformation. Okay. I'm not selecting all the data. I'm applying some transformation to select some selective data. I'm applying some conditional statement. So this is my second model. Okay. And then this selective fast chain model I'm using to create my third model. So here you can see I'm creating my third model where I have referred to the selective fast chain model. Selective fast chain model that has referred to the college scorecard model. And this is my last model, this one, the selective fast top 10 model, where I'm referring to the selective fast chain model. And again, I have some select statement along with applying some transformation. So this is a simple SQL which you can understand. Apart from writing this SQL, so here you can see there is a materialization I have written. So where I have mentioned whether, so as I told, each of this model, for each of the model, it's going to create table in the BigQuery, because that is the data warehouse we are using here. If you are using Snowflake, it will create tables in Snowflake. So here for each of the model, whatever you are seeing, college scorecard, selective fast chain, top 10, for each of the model. So these are basically the tables which we are going to create on the data warehouse. So whether you want to create table or whether you want to create views, so that also you can specify. So that is what we have specified here. I don't want to create table for the selective fast chain top 10. I want to create a view. I have specified that. Okay. And then here, if you'll see, there are some macros. So what is macro? So macro, if you'll see, if you have some knowledge on SQ, Excel, or in case of the Notepad++ also, we create some macros. Or even in case of the Python, if you know, in case of the Python, we create function. So macro has the same significance. In case of the macro, let's say you are doing some repetitive task. Let's say I have a column in this table where I'm doing some cleanup. So let's say on this column, I'm removing all the null values, and wherever there is a space, okay, not null values, wherever there is space or there is some comma, those values I'm replacing with, let's say, just null I'm writing, or some other things writing NA, N, or something I'm writing. So let's say this is the kind of transformation which I'm doing. And same transformation I want to do for all the columns. Let's say in my table or in my model, whether I say as table or model, both are same thing. So in my model, let's say there are 10 columns. In those 10 columns, let's say this is the transformation which I want to apply. In out of 10 columns, I want to apply on 7 or 6 columns. I don't want to write this transformation again and again for all those 6 columns. So instead of that, what I can do, I can write a macro, and then I can call that macro. So basically I can pass the column name while calling that macro. Let's say I want to call column 1, column 3, column 8, and I want to apply this transformation. So this macro I can call, I can pass the column name, and then my transformation will be done. So that is the use of macro. For macro, we have a separate folder. You can see macro folder. And that macro, what it is doing, it is basically doing the cleanup. So this macro will take the column name as argument, and the macro name is cleanup numeric macro. And then it is applying the transformation which I told, right? If it is not null, or if there are any other values are there, it's going to change the data type as float or else null. Okay, this is how you need to write the macro. And the macro name is cleanup numeric macro. That macro we are calling here. I'm passing the column name. You can see here multiple column names I'm passing here to this macro. Okay. So these are the two folders. One is the macro folder, another one is the model folder. Okay. All the models, let's say here we don't have raw layer, staging layer and all. But here inside this model folder, you can also create subfolders as well. You can create one folder for raw layer. You can create one folder for staging, one for standard. You can create subfolders. Inside that, you can create your transformations. You can put your model as well. And this is the macro folder. Then there is a profile folder. So I'll go to profile folder later. So then there is a dbt project folder, dbt project.yml file. So here, if you'll see what we are doing, whenever we are going to interact with the BigQuery, as I told here, we are going to interact with the BigQuery. And all this folder path, so which one is the model folder, which one is the macro folder, which one is the target folder, all this folder path we need to specify here inside the dbt project YAML file. Okay, so this is one of the important YAML file which you need to have on your dbt project, on your dbt pipeline. So here what we are specifying each of the directory path, and then we have a profile name. Okay, so the profile name is here. Remember this profile name. I'll talk about what is the significance of this profile name in some time. But remember, there is a profile name which you need to put, and the profile name here is dbt BigQuery demo. Apart from that, we have the macro, like how we are going to basically run this dbt project. So that we need to specify, and also we need to specify whether we want to create tables, we want to create views for all this model. We have specified that. Okay. So this is about the dbt project. So it will be having how you are going to run your model, whether you are going to create tables or views. Also, you need to specify the macro. You need to specify the directory path for each of the folder. You need to have a profile name. Okay. So whenever you are going to, because this is on my local, right? I am going to run the dbt model in my local. So whenever I am running this model on my local, so it is going to interact with the GCP services. So how it is going to do it? So basically we have a profile name, right? Which I told you, dbt profile name. Using that profile name, I need to have another file, which is the profile file, dot profile file. So these are the two important files. One is the dbt project YAML file, which I just now showed you, which is having the dbt profile name. Another one is the profile file, profile YAML file. So basically the profile YAML file will be available inside the .dbt folder. Okay, and this will be available when you will do the initial setup for dbt code. So all this setup you will have to do for the dbt code, and don't worry about that, how to do the setup and all. I'll talk about that in some other class, because it will take time to show you how to do the initial setup. But remember that there is a dbt project YAML file, and then there will be a profile file. So there will be a profile file, which you can see here. And if you see the content of this profile file, so it will be having the same profile name here. So this profile name, it should match with your profile name, whatever is there on the project file. Okay, so this is the same profile name, dbt BigQuery demo profile name. And here you need to specify how you are going to connect with your data warehouse. So whether you are going to connect with a BigQuery, or you can also specify, you can create a profile for Snowflake as well. So how you are going to connect with the data warehouse, that you need to specify. And whenever you are going to connect with the data warehouse, in this case, it's BigQuery. So this BigQuery is available inside GCP, right? And we are running the dbt code in my local. So from this local machine, I can interact with the GCP BigQuery using a service account, using authentication, because I need to do the authentication. I cannot directly connect to the GCP BigQuery, right? I need to do the authentication. So this authentication, for the authentication, I'm using the service account. Okay, so again, don't worry about what is a service account. I'm using some other terminology, but just for now, understand that whenever you are running something on outside of the GCP, and you want to authenticate that local machine or that service to access the GCP services, you need to go through the service account. So that service account, you can see I have specified here. So for the service account, I have created the service account keys, and that service account I have specified here. Okay. So let me use this. So that service account keys I have specified here. So this service account keys is basically having all the details about my project. Let me search for this service account. So this service account is basically having all the, let me use this service account also. So it is having all the details about my project, about my GCP project. And then I'm going to interact with, I have specified the data set, right? The BigQuery data set, which I'm going to use. And also I have specified the project ID and the data warehouse name. Okay, so these are the things which I have specified. Then there are other details also, which I have specified, like job timeout second, and then how many threads basically I need while doing this processing. Those things also I have specified. So, but main thing is you need to have this profile name, which should match with the profile name which you have in the dbt project YAML file, and how you are going to connect to the BigQuery service. What is the dataset name you are going to use? What is the project name you are going to use? So that you need to specify. After that, now you can connect to the BigQuery. You can connect to the BigQuery. So how you can check that? If you go to the terminal, let me go to the command prompt. So what I'll do, I will activate my virtual environment, because this is the dbt code, right? You need to install it using the pip install command. So this is the virtual environment. If you have some idea about the virtual environment, so basically in the virtual environment, I have installed all the dependency. So the virtual environment, it's just like your computer. Here, all the dependency I have installed, all the Python packages which I need to run my DBT, I have installed on this virtual environment. Okay, so that is why I activated this virtual environment using Conda. There are multiple ways to create this virtual environment. But for now, just understand in this virtual environment, I have installed the DBT related dependency package. That is why I activated the virtual environment so that I can run the DBT command. And here we are going to use the DBT CLI, right? So I have made some changes. As you saw, that I changed the service account file name. I changed the project name and all. So first of all, what I did before running the query, what I will do is I will check if the connection is successful or not. If all the configuration settings all are correct or not, I need to check that. So for that, I can run the dbt debug command. It's going to show if there is any issue on the project, on the configuration settings, or everything is fine. Okay, so if there is any error, it will throw error. If there are no error, you can see like it's checking all connection. Okay, all checks passed. So this is the service account which it's going to use. This is the project name. This is the GCP project name. This is the schema name which it's going to use. Everything looks fine, and I can go ahead and run my DBT model. So model you all understood. I have the raw layer. I have the next is staging layer. I have the final layer. Okay, so there are three tables which I'm going to create. And what I'm going to do, so whenever I will try to run the model, it is going to search for this data set. So basically, in case of the BigQuery, we need to have we call it data set. Okay, so usually how we create the tables, we'll have the databases. Inside the databases, we'll create the tables. So the databases, we call it data set in case of the BigQuery. And the tables you can create under the data set. So let's say this BigQuery, this will be part of a project, right? So that project will be having the project ID. That is the project ID which I have been talking about till now. So inside this project ID, there will be a data set, or data set is similar to the database. And then inside the data set, you'll having the tables. So here you will see in the BigQuery, this is my data. This is my project name. I have my data set. I have not created this data set. This data set which I am using here, CH4. Let me create this data set. So I will create the data set. I will create the data set in the BigQuery. On the BigQuery console, I will create the data set. And after creating the data set, it will also look for this table, because this is the source table. So this table has to be present. Otherwise, my model will not run. So this table I'm going to create. And I'm going to, so there are multiple ways how to create the table. So I am going to create the table. So I'll tell you how. So here what I'm doing, I have already uploaded this CSV file into my bucket, into the GCS bucket. And using that, I'm going to create the table, okay, in the BigQuery. So I'll create a table, should have specified. So basically it has created a load job. So here you can see, like whenever you are creating the table, you need to specify whether you have any headers or there are any double quote. I actually forgot to specify because this file is having header. So I should have specified the first row as header. Let's see. So once the data is loaded, you can see the data as well using the preview feature of the BigQuery. Yeah, so this is the issue. So I should have specified let me delete it and I will specify the first row as header. I will again create the same table. So I'll extract the file which I have stored into my GCS bucket. I already uploaded this just before the class. I'm going to use that, and the table name should be this because that is the table name I'm using here. And let me use auto detect schema. And here I have header rows 1. Now it's fine. Let me create the table. So once the data is loaded, so my big table my table is created. That means the source table is ready. So the source table is created because you need to have the source table before you go for further transformation using the DBT. So once the source table is created, we can go ahead and run our DBT model. Okay, so let me see if the table is created. Looks like the table is created and we can see some data in the table. Okay, so I have some of the rows, and if I'll go to the details, in the details I can see I have my project ID, right? I have the dataset name CH04, which I'm referring here, and the table name. Next is the table name. Okay, so my dataset is created. Next thing is I can run the model. Okay, so I can use the dbt run in order to run my model. So it's going to create the tables, and wherever I have specified the materialization as views, it's going to create the views in those model. So, and you can see here there is log folder, right? So this log folder will be having all these logs, whatever the logs is printing on the console, same logs will be also there inside this log folder as well. So if there is any issue, there is any error in your model, you can go ahead and check the log folder. Now you can see like it is creating the model. It has created this called a scorecard model. It has created the fast model. So there are some example model also here I forgot to delete. And then it has created this fast chain top 10 model. It has also created this fast chain model, right? So it has created all the model and there is no error. All the models are created. So you can see here there are 3 tables and 2 views it has created, and it took around this much time to run this query. So once the model is created, you can just go ahead and validate. So it is using the let's refresh it. It is using this this data set. Inside this, you can find the selective fast chain model. You can go to preview and see the data. Similarly, this is the table. This is a view. Okay, the fast chain top 10, as I told, it will create a view. And in the view, you cannot preview the data, just like table, you can preview the data. In the view, you cannot preview. You need to go to run the query. You can run the query on the big query console, and then you can you can see the data as well on the view, whatever the data is there. So once the model is created, there are other things also you can do, like you can also generate the docs as well. So there is a nice document you can generate for the model. Sorry, I write it. The command is not, there is a typo. It's dbt docs generate. So you can create a nice documentation for your model as well. Because we are not using just dbt just to create a model. There are other features of dbt which you can also use. So it has created a nice documentation and about this model, about the details of the model. We can also create a, we can upload this documentation like to a web server, and we can see the documentation on the web server, on the web URL as well. So you can see here on the local host, it's running, and it will be having the details about the my model which I created. It's loading. Local host. Taking some time to load. But yeah, meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask anything on what there are. I know there are some terminology you may have some doubt. I'll clarify that in the class, but anything else, if you have any doubt, you can let me. Any questions, guys? So in this course, we are also covering everything about the DBT. You don't need to go for any separate course for DBT. So mostly we are covering almost everything about the DBT. So yeah, anything you want to ask, guys? Ganesh, can we end the session?
Yeah, Swagat. Only I'm only the present in this call.
Yeah. I think Gaurav disconnected here.
Yeah, Gaurav is left off so long, I guess.
So anything, any doubt you have?
Yeah, I don't have much doubts, Swagat, like the concepts which going well. Like in a regular time, in a regular classes, we can understand these things. Like now, it will be look very complicated even for me as well.
Yeah.
But in a regular classes, we can understand more things.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Yes.
Yeah. Ganesh is in this call.
Yeah, I think he's there. Or else
Hello.
you can also connect with him offline as well if you have any questions.
Sure, Swagat.
Yeah.
Ganesh, are you there in the call?
No, I think he is offline. He is away. You can connect with him.
Sure.
You can connect with him offline. Okay.
Okay, Swagat. Okay. Actually, I thought to interrupt you in before only, but I like the explanation was very good. So because of that, I didn't interrupted you in the middle.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So
Okay.
thank you. Thank you very much.